aquí en Líderes, señores. Yo soy Frank Serraldi y quiero decirles que el día de hoy tenemos una entrevista con un coach y un gran amigo. Él es Marcus Mckeown, un experto en cultura organizacional. Ya no les platico más de él, mejor lo saludo. Marcus, how are you?
Very good, Frank. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, my man. Do you want a coffee?
I would love a coffee.
Mau, dos cafecitos. Aprovechando, quiero decirles, I want to tell you, Marcus, that México es un país cafetalero por excelencia, uno de los principales productores, y pues para disfrutar un buen café, qué mejor que Café Punta del Cielo.
See, it's a great place for coffee. It's also a great place for meetings.
And a great place for interview.
See.
So, for starting and for the people to get to know you a bit better, please tell me, what do you do? What's your game in here in coaching business?
Well, there's a number of ways in which people describe what I do. One of them is I'm a leadership coach, a business coach, and a personal coach. But in truth, what I do is I help people to understand the true fundamental nature of life in the context of organizations or in the context of your own personal life or your own personal search for understanding or meaning. So in the business world, I help organizations create a culture that allows different departments to interact in a new way, in a different way, in an exciting way, always with a view to achieving the objective of the organization. For individuals and for personal life, I work with people to help them find what it is that they know is inside, but they can't seem to, or they don't seem to know how to access. And that thing is the other part of the self that has something to bring into life that has yet to be experienced.
How can we access to that part that give us power, that give us like the knowledge or the strength to go to the breakthrough maybe?
Well, the first thing you need to do is begin to believe that there is something more to you than you have yet experienced. The world that we live in and the life that we live in is filled with different systems of thought, different systems of behavior, different understandings of life that aren't necessarily giving us the full picture or the big picture. So for each of us, there is a reality in life where we have a knowledge, a wisdom, an insight, an understanding that we keep secret and quiet. The first thing we have to do is go in there and explore what that is that we are feeling that's telling us there's more. After you do that, you begin to explore, I guess, by asking questions about what is life all about. Why am I here? Where did I come from? Where am I going? Why do I get up at 9 in the morning, clock into a job after sitting in 2 hours of traffic in DFA? At 5 o'clock to clock out again, to sit in traffic, to go home, to go to sleep, to get up and do it all over again. You know, we have to ask, why do I do that? What is in me that is saying that's okay if I'm not joyful and happy? Once you go there, Frank, I don't know. After that, you have to follow the inspiration. You have to follow the desire, the need, the want.
In this world when we are many times living in automatic way, as you say, how can we make that stop? How can we have like a way of to do this big change and start to live the way that we truly need or we truly want?
The first thing you have to realize is that you don't make it stop. You stop. And you take a moment to ask yourself, what do I want from this moment for the rest of my life? What do I want the experience to be? And when you understand where you are and where you want to be, the next question is, what are the steps I have to take to achieve that outcome? Now, in theory, it's a very easy thing to sit and to ask, where do I want to be and what do I have to do? The challenge is in the doing, because the doing means that you have to face a lot of what are your life patterns of behavior, your life patterns of interaction, your life patterns of being as you are. And you have to challenge them and you have to prevent yourself from repeating them over and over again. In our business, we say the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
And Marcus, you are totally right. And most of the people, we do that, no? The same things, the same struggles, and we want different results. Sure. Now I want to know about Marcus, the human being. I know you have a lot of strength to make people change his way of thinking, the way an enterprise works. But Marcus as a human being, I guess you have fears, you have struggles, you have like indecisions in your life. How you put your things together so you can be effective in the things that you do? What's the secret?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that I don't see that Marcus is a human being as much as I see that Marcus is something else having a human experience. So the way I describe it is very simple. This, to me, this is the flesh and the blood is just the suit, it's the uniform that I wear on this planet that allows me to breathe the oxygen in the atmosphere. But inside this suit, this uniform, there's something else. So I spend my life being in a relationship with the me that is in here, not the me that you see. And that me is an energetic something. It's connected to all things. It's a powerful version of what I believe life itself is. And I have the beauty and the joy of being conscious of that fact. So I can take the understanding of who I am within myself, and I begin to explore the world around me to see what in the world around me is letting me have an insight into the deeper understanding of life. So I don't believe I'm a human being, I believe I'm having a human experience. I believe that, for example, organizations and entrepreneurs who begin to think this way, who begin to see this as a possible belief system, will begin to tap into energetic forces that they've never known existed. And I'm not talking about esoterical, out there, far-reaching things. I'm talking about a simple thing like the energy between you and me now. You know, what's going on between the space that we're sitting in? What's happening in this moment that is allowing us to begin to fantasize beyond what we see? And an entrepreneur has to be a fantasist. You have to fantasize. To fantasize, you must believe in the imagination. You must believe the imagination is not a place where things are imagined. The imagination is a place where reality begins, its manifestation, its creation process. So for me, life it's an adventure. It's a journey to enjoy. It's an adventure to embrace. And I don't believe there's a right, I don't believe there's a wrong, I don't believe there's a good, I don't believe there's a bad. And I have not come to those conclusions simply because they're nice ideas. I have spent my life studying in all of the ologies, in theology and psychology, classical psychology, psychoneuroimmunology. I have studied and studied and studied. And then with all of that knowledge, I began to engage in a life of meditation and contemplation that allowed me to enact all of the things I've learned. So for those who choose to believe that life is a gift, the gift will be discovered. For those who believe that life is not, the gift will not be discovered. See, Frank?
And we have the choice.
Yeah, you get what you focus on. It's simple. The challenge is not getting sucked into the things that you don't want to be focused on. And the world we live in is very powerful in its ability to distract you from what matters most, and to make you think that to go out and to be busy and stuck in traffic is what matters most, when in fact what matters most is to take time to sit in Ponte del Cielo to have a coffee and talk, and to engage and to explore life at a heart level. When the heart is engaged, the mind follows. And when the mind and the heart are working together, magic happens.
Of course. You say something really that makes me think a lot. You say, I'm not a human being. I'm a being having a human experience. What does it mean? Who we really are?
It's a big question. I think the most honest answer to that is, híjole. How do you answer that question? What does it mean? Well, everything that you see in the world around you is simply a microcosm of the macrocosm. In one 15-minute section of somebody's life, you can find the story of their entire life. All we do is repeat the same things over and over and over again. We don't do different things every day. We do most of the time the same thing every day over and over again. So within this skin, there is a knowing, an awareness, a being, a consciousness. It used to be referred to as a soul. The more modern word now is consciousness. And this consciousness is not something that we have. It's something that we are. So if you use the word soul, the soul is not something that we have, it's something that we are. When you begin to explore yourself...
That's the other part of the body you're explaining. One part may be the suit,
sure.
One other part might be the consciousness.
Yeah, and there are more. There's an emotional body, there's a physical body, there's a spiritual body, and the list goes on. And unless you begin to understand what each one of those mean, you're going to continually get stuck in bottlenecks. You're going to continually get stuck in not knowing. Because if you don't understand your true nature, how can you understand how to play this beautiful game of life? How can you understand how to reach within to create that what you want around you if you don't understand who you are? But we live in this world making decisions based on knowing this much of who we are. Now, when you know this much of who you are, the decisions become sharper, they become smarter, they become more authentic, they become more ethical, more moral, they become more focused, and they become more of a design to do things that empower not just you, but the world around you.
what would you say, what powerful speech you just have done. I'm feeling great to make this interview. What would you say to a person if you are in a coaching session and you see that this guy is totally lost? How you ground him? How you put it? You have to know be conscious. How you do that? How you put it?
Well, first of all, there's a great poem I heard poet David White once. It was a beautiful moment, and the poem describes the story of somebody being lost in the forest. And at the end of the poem, it ends very beautifully. It says that, worry not, you are not lost. The forest knows where you are. Nobody is lost, Frank. We're just in a place that might not be the one we want to be in, but we're not lost. Everything is what it needs to be for a specific reason, a specific purpose. But if I'm in a coaching session and someone is lost, what do? First thing, I don't tell them anything. The job of the coach is to tell nobody anything. A coach asks questions solo. And there is in Mexico a very significant misunderstanding of the concept of coaching. Most coaching I've witnessed in Mexico is in fact mentoring, it's not coaching. Coaches ask questions. Why? Because the coach cannot give anybody an answer to anything in their life, but they have a skill set to help the person discover the answer for themselves. Now, when someone discovers an answer for themselves, learning happens. So it's the same principle with an entrepreneur or an organization. If you hire a consultant to come in and help you out of a problem, what happens the next time the problem arises? You need to pick up the phone and say to the consultant, por favor, ayúdame. Come back and help me. I don't know what to do. But if you go in and coach an organization to discover its own solution to its own problem, the next time the problem arises, they don't need you. They just need to look within themselves to realize they have the solution anyway. And it's a very important part of life. It's a very important part of understanding how we create reality. One, to understand that we always have everything we need. And if we don't have what we need, we have the resources to find what it is that we need. So this is all about responsibility. It's about empowerment. It's about becoming the one that is responsible for creating the reality you're in. Now, the beauty of that is that when you are responsible, the inside dialogue becomes different. You stop blaming the world around you. You stop pointing the finger. You stop thinking it's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault, it's the government's fault, it's the president's fault. It's not. It's our responsibility. It's nobody's fault. We are the creators of our reality. It's very easy to sit and say, you did. It's very easy to sit and say in marketing, we screwed up because the salespeople didn't do their job. That's not what happens. What happens in organizations, what happens with entrepreneurs, what happens with individuals, is that we forget to remember that we are the ones with all of the answers to all of the questions. This is simple. It's simple, unless it's not. But that's a choice, Frank, and you know that.
Yeah, that's your word. What I get about this is like life can be everything that you want. The important thing is that perspective that you give it. It's right what I'm trying to explain?
Yeah, well, life can be everything you want it to be unless it can't. But that's a choice. You choose to believe it can, or you choose to believe it can't. If you choose to believe it can, you will, by its nature, begin to experience life in a way that it will give you insight into the things that complement what you're thinking. If you believe it can't, by its nature, life will give you things that give you insight into believing that what you're thinking is the truth. So that's the first thing to remember. Mm-hmm. And you're right, it's perception. Life is a perception. Todo en este mundo es percepción. Todo.
Marcus, we need to go to we're going to cut. Vamos a ir a un comercial, señores. Les pido que no se muevan de sus lugares. When we come back, Marcus, I want to talk of Contradictions of Life. El libro de Marcus, que es un libro muy interesante que ya tuve la oportunidad de leer. We come back.
Thank you, Frank.
Regresamos. Y pues gracias por seguir con nosotros, a toda la gente que nos está viendo. Seguimos entrevistando a Marcus Mckeown, cultura organizacional. Marcus, we were talking about, we were finishing talking about perspective. Do you want something to add?
Well, there's a lot I could add. I think the most important thing to remember is that everything in life is based on how you choose to perceive it. Just take that one idea, that one notion, and sit with it for a while to understand that everything in life you experience is a perception. So there's an old cliche saying, it's very powerful, that you don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. What you believe within yourself as the truth is what you're going to see in the world around you. You will never see the world as it is. So it's the same as if I now read a poetry book, and I read a beautiful poem, and I ask the viewers to phone in and to tell me what does the poem mean, and 100 viewers phone in, I will get 100 different understandings of that same poem. And the reason why I get that is that we see the poem as we are, subjective-based thinking, not objective. So everything's perception. So the pain, the struggle, the anxiety, the stress, the business issue, the entrepreneur who can't find the money, the entrepreneur who's got so far and then it has stopped, the business who can't find innovation or creativity. The reason why they're stuck is because they're not perceiving things in the way that allow them to see beyond that which is the block. That's all.
Great.
It's simple.
It sounds simple, but it's hard to manage.
But it is simple, unless it's not. But that's a choice. Keep remembering that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's always a choice. Why is that? Well, we are living in a system that it's all upside down. So a lot of us, we are stuck in a part or in many ways in our lives.
See.
And you're saying that's a choice.
Sure.
But what things that we have to be focused on so we can release ourselves?
It depends what you want to achieve. You see,
We just have to be paying attention to what we truly want.
You need to understand what you want, but you need to understand it beyond the intellect. You need to understand it way beyond the thought.
And bring it here.
The thought is one part of it. You need to feel it. You need to feel, why is this important to me? What is this going to create? What is the consequence? Who will I be in the consequence? How will I be in the consequence? What is the picture of life that I am painting for myself as I feel, think, interact, and dream this possibility? It's much more than just thinking. And the challenge we have in helping people understand this is that people want to believe that there is a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and we can apply step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 to everybody. You can't. Life is filled with contradictions. It's filled with topsy-turvy thinking. You need to understand the true fundamental nature of life. So when somebody says, my life is filled with bad experiences, you need to help somebody understand that you're not experiencing bad experiences, you're experiencing experiences that you are calling bad. The word bad automatically attaches you to preconceived notions of struggle, pain, anxiety, darkness, hardship, pity, self, whatever, deprecating thoughts. Move beyond the language. Begin to realize that the language you use is painting the picture of the future. Your future is simply a consequence of what you choose in this moment to believe is right, wrong, good, bad, or whatever. And for me, most of the time I believe there is no right or wrong. I believe there is no good or bad. There just is what there is, and it's my choice and my responsibility to do something in relation to that thing. So there's no 1, 2, 3. You need to begin to realize that you do not need, people hire me and pay me significant sums of money in organizations to help them break through things. And the first thing I do is I tell them, you don't need me. You do not need me to do this.
You have your own resources.
You have it, but obviously you think you need me, so let's be here together and do this until the moment comes and you realize you don't need me, which is the biggest contradiction in my world. My job is to get a client to let the client know you don't need me.
It's a great
the way
book.
it is.
And now I want to talk a bit about that book. I have the opportunity to read it. I think it's a great book, and you call it The Contradictions of Life, and you have like 13 contradictions around there, no?
Yeah.
Life, struggle.
Yeah, I think in that book, there's 12 contradictions. And they're simple things that are meant to help people get an insight into what might be. So for example, one of the contradictions is the only way out is true. So most people are in a difficult situation, they want out of the situation, and they think that they can get around it with a different thought pattern, they can get under it with a different perception. The only way out of a problem is through the problem. Why? Because the problem is there for a reason. You created it. Like if you did not create the problems in your life, who did? If you're not responsible for the world you're living in, who is? And if you think that something or someone else is responsible for your life and your circumstances, well, who and what is that? I want to know. And if you think something else is responsible, you should ask yourself who or what it is, because you want to know how to engage with it so life becomes easier. So first thing to realize is there is nothing out there. Everything is in here. Now, in an interview like this, the time is too short to go into this in depth, but some other time we can talk at this level. In truth, Frank, this entire thing is an illusion. It's a dream within a dream. You are the one in the dream, and you are the one having the dream. but you've got so lost in the dream you think it's reality. When you separate yourself from the dream, you begin to realize, as the dreamer, I can dream any dream.
And become the observer, maybe.
Of
in
course.
some way.
You are the creator. You are the one that made all this happen. I am not here. You think I am. And you're playing the game as if I am. And you're doing that for one reason only. You haven't yet learned to trust yourself enough to hear this from you, so you need to imagine me so you can trust me.
Wow. Es una plática tan profunda que ya me estoy revolviendo. Yo me estoy creando toda esta confusión, es lo bueno. Marcus, I'm more confused than I've begun, but it's great.
Confusion is good. Confusion is a place where you begin to wonder, what is this about? How do I figure this out? When you are certain, it's one of the contradictions in the book. The only certainty is uncertainty. That's it. Nothing else is guaranteed. Uncertainty is the only certainty you can have. When you're in uncertainty...
And you need to love it.
Of course, you need to embrace it, because uncertainty makes you ask, what is this? Why is this? Where is this? When is this? How is this? And that will lead you down the road of searching for answers. When you have answers, you move. When you think you know, you don't move. If you think you know everything, there's no room to learn. If you don't learn, how can you grow? If you don't grow, how can you live? If you don't live, you will not die a nice death. And I don't mean just your physical death, because you need to know that you die as you live. The way you live your life is the way you are going to die. If you live in fear, you will die in fear. If you live in denial, you will die in denial. If you live in joy, you will die in joy. This is a journey to be experienced, not one to suffer, Frank. Pain is inevitable. Suffering, a choice. This life is an experience to have fun. It's to ride the wave, explore, take nothing personal. Don't speak unless you really mean what you're going to say. Sit back and observe the world. Let the world teach you. Dance. You know, dance with life, dance with the ideas. Don't be afraid of getting something wrong. The greatest fool in the world is a fool who never made a mistake. Do things. Who cares if you don't win? The experience is what matters. The winning is irrelevant.
Of course.
So,
and now, Marcus, it's great the way you're talking. You have all of us hearing you with all our senses. But right now, I know you have a great perspective, and I know you are a very powerful guy. I'm sure you have struggles in your life. I'm sure there's some day you don't want to go up the bed.
No, Frank, my life is perfect. Yes, how can you not? How can you not have experiences every day, or sometimes in some days, where you just think, oh, today I want a blanket day, I want to stay in bed, I'm tired, I'm lonely, I'm upset, this hasn't worked, that hasn't worked. But in that moment you have a choice. What choice do I make? Do I choose to follow that kind of thinking, or do I choose to look beyond it? Just like you, I've had a life that taught me my lessons and gave me this enormous gift, and it was not easy. The first half of my life I would describe as hell. Hell. But I look back on it, and if I could live it again, I would not change it. I would not change a thing. And that hell involves having bones broken, fighting and arguing as a young boy who was bitter and angry and lost and confused. It involves sexual abuse. It involves companies that were big and then failed. It involves relationships that broke up. It involves interaction and challenge with my own faith. I was born a Catholic. I'm no longer a Catholic. I was a theologian with the church. The journey I had to go to let go of that, to unravel that and re-establish life wasn't easy. But it was beautiful.
But you
and
had
it
to
taught
endure.
me beautiful things. And anyone in this world who wants to understand their truest potential, that wants to achieve an experience of the truest, most authentic, amazing part of themselves, cannot do it unless they go through the pain, through the suffering, through the challenge. And they're not bad things, they're just things. But if we see them as bad things, we suffer with them. If we see them just as life experiences, we grow because of them. So the greatest, for me, the greatest pains in my life truly have been the greatest gifts.
Of course.
And what I have learned is that I can now establish a life experience where the greatest gifts are given without the pain, without the suffering. I've learned that it's like I've discovered in life that suffering and pain are only necessary in order to realize that suffering and pain are not necessary.
Wow.
But until then, they're necessary.
Marcus, I hate it, but we have to finish this conversation. It's been so great. Can you
It's
give
been
us
my
your
pleasure.
website? Because I'm sure,
Sure.
our people is going to know more about you.
Sure, and people are welcome to write Spanish or English. So the website is www.marcusmckeown, marcusmckeown.com.
Marcus, it's been great talking to you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me here, and thank you to all of you for being here too and sharing this moment.
Gracias por oírnos, gracias por escucharnos. Nos vemos en la próxima.